This is the Full Check Podcast. I'm your host, John Gervasi, and today is team number 3 in the 32 and 32. I don't have any Bruins stuff because I honestly don't care for the Bruins, but I'm wearing some Fighting Irish stuff. Anders Bjork used to play for the Bruins, so why not? Today, I'm going to go a little bit. I'm a little frustrated with the Bruins in terms of being a hockey fan and being unbiased, so let's get into it. Boston Bruins 32 and 32. Today is our first actual team that has made the playoffs 3 years in a row, and Boston is in an interesting position, so let's get to it. The last 3 years, 2018, 2019, they went 49, 24, and 9, 107 points, 259 goals for, 215 goals against, with a plus 44 goal differential. Now, they beat Toronto 4-3, came back in that series, so the Toronto beam is still alive. But they caught a break because Columbus upset the Tampa Bay Lightning that year, the President's Trophy Tampa Bay Lightning. And so Boston just had to go through Columbus, and they went through them pretty easily, 4-2, swept Carolina in the conference final, then lost to St. Louis 4-3 in a hard-fought Stanley Cup final. Now, the thought was that Boston was going to get a lot better, and they did. 2019-2020, they went 44, 14, and 12 with 100 points, 227 goals for, 174 against, a plus 53 differential. So this was the stupid COVID year. It was stupid. The NHL shut down. Probably should have never shut down because, COVID. Yeah. Played in the bubble. And I think that so they ended the season with the most points in the NHL. So they won the President's Trophy, which was cool, or which was good for them. But the COVID stoppage, again, was stupid. They should have never stopped playing. You could have just played without fans in all the arenas. But also the fact that it probably killed any momentum that Boston had, because Boston was on a roll at that point, and it 100% killed any momentum that they had going into the playoffs. Went 0-3 in the round robin tournament, so they fell from the number 1 seed all the way to the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs, where they got to play Carolina, so they beat them 4-1, and then they got spanked by Tampa Bay 4-1. And so the thought was, hey, they're getting better. Boston is still winning. The President's Trophy is just a sign of things to come. They will be back in the Cup Finals. And then 2020-21 hits, and the Bruins didn't hit rock bottom, but the roof kind of caved in on Boston. 33, 16, and 7, and 73 with 73 points, 168 goals for, 136 against, a plus 32 goal differential. So the goal differential is there. It's positive, but Boston really had to fight to get back in the playoffs, and then they beat Washington 4-1 in the first round, and the Capitals really choked that series away. Washington probably should have beat Boston in at least 5 or 6, and then they lost to New York in the second round, 4-2. Didn't really have control of that series. Pretty sure they were leading the series at once, and then I think New York ripped off 2 or 3 in a row. But I'm not going to say that this season got worse, because it was a shortened season, again, due to this COVID crap that still is a problem. NHL doesn't have a good COVID plan at all. Not that they should need one, but the bottom really fell out for Boston this year. Especially to start the year, they struggled throughout the year, got on kind of a roll at the end, then upset Washington. And people thought, well, we're going to see a Boston-Tampa Bay conference final, because there's no way the Islanders are going to be able to hang with the high-flying Bruins offense. So, their special teams were some of the best in the league. They were 21.9% on the power play. That was good for 10th. They had an 86% they were 86% on the penalty kill. That was good for second in the NHL. So their special teams was really good. And, you would think that that would carry on into the playoffs, and it just didn't. Their whatever momentum they had going into the Islanders series was gone. They didn't play very well in the regular season, and I think a lot of that had to do with Tuukka Rask. I'm pretty sure Tuukka was out for a good bit of time, and then Halak got hurt. But Jeremy Swayman stepped up, and I'll get to him in a second. Team leaders, Brad Marchand had 29 goals. He also Brad Marchand led in goals, assists, and points. He had 40 assists and 69 points. Brad the Rat Marchand, you hate him, but he can put up points, and that's what he did. He led this team, probably put this team on his back and carried them to the playoffs. So Patrice Bergeron led with a plus 27. Tuukka Rask went 24, 15, and 5 with a 913 save percentage and a 228 goals against average. So Tuukka had a pretty good season, but he was hurt, so he didn't play the whole season. And here's my issue, though. Jeremy Swayman went 7 and 3 with a 945 save percentage and a 150 goals against. And my issue with that is we're going to get to key departures or transactions now. So they went out, and we look here. They signed Nick Foligno. He got a 2-year contract for $7.6 million, so $3.8 per year. He had 20 points, 7 goals, 13 assists in 49 games for the Leafs and Jackets last year. 4 assists in 7 games for Toronto. And, man, Foligno, a lot of people want to blame Foligno for the playoffs collapse. They're blaming Jack Campbell and Nick Foligno. And Austin Matthews had 0 goals in 7 games. Austin Matthews choked in the playoffs again, but everybody wants to blame the trade for Nick Foligno. Foligno is a very good player. I think that he got a good contract for what he's worth. He's obviously not a 50-goal scorer, but he can be a 20-goal scorer. He could put up 20, 30 assists. I think he can be a 50-point player on this team based on all the talent around him. And my biggest signing issue was Linus Ullmark. 9-6-3 with 263 goals against and a 917 save percentage for the Sabres. He missed the final month with a lower body injury. So Jeremy Swayman goes 7-3 with a 945 save percentage and a 150 goals against. He was a rookie last year, so he'll still be a rookie this year. Am I missing something? Jeremy Swayman put the team on his back for 10 games and won 7 of them as a rookie with a 150 goals against. And you're telling me that he's not good enough to start, but you're going to go out and sign Linus Ullmark? And then on top of that, Tuukka Rask. So the biggest issue is Tuukka Rask is not going to make the start of the season. So Jeremy Swayman had a chance to be the guy and show that he is the guy for the future. But instead, they went out and signed Ullmark. Okay, so he'll be the backup then until Rask gets back. Well, no, they signed Troy Grosnek to be the backup to Ullmark and to be the starter in Providence when Rask gets back. So Jeremy Swayman may not even play in Providence. Why are you signing a guy like Ullmark when you have Swayman waiting in the wings? Swayman is the future of this team. Jeremy Swayman and Spencer Knight are going to be the 2 best goalies in the NHL. They're both better than Carter Hart. Hands down, I think that Jeremy Swayman and Spencer Knight are going to be 2 of the best goalies to ever play the game. So you have, I think, a football coach said it best when you have you've got a horse in the stables and you don't let him sit in there. And you have Swayman just sitting there, and you're not going to give him a chance. If he doesn't even get reps in preseason, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that maybe Boston is not sold on Jeremy Swayman. Boston needs to trade Swayman. Jeremy Swayman could be a number one goalie on a lot of teams in the NHL. I would take him in San Jose in a heartbeat because James Reimer and Aiden Hill, I'm not sold on them, but I am sold on Jeremy Swayman. He single-handedly carried Maine to their best record in years before the stupid COVID hit. Before that whole dumb COVID and NCAA didn't want to finish the season, before that stupid thing hit, Jeremy Swayman was possibly carrying the University of Maine to another national championship because Maine was going to win the Big East because of Jeremy Swayman. And I say that because last year Maine didn't do so hot without their star goalie. And then this year he went 7-3, and I'm pretty sure he played pretty well in his limited playoff action too. So Boston, I don't really know what they're doing with their goaltending situation. The other thing that Boston did was they re-signed Taylor Hall. And Taylor Hall got a 4-year contract, $6 million AAV. I don't know if Taylor Hall this is a good signing. That's a lot of money for someone who has one good year in his 9 NHL seasons. Taylor Hall has never really been a good player. He's had his one good year. He's a cancer in the locker room. And if you look at, he's been on the Oilers, Devils, Sabres, and he's on 4 teams in the last, 5 years? He had 3 goals, 2 assists in the playoffs. 2021, he had 10 goals, 23 assists, 33 points, a -6. Taylor Hall had one good year. He was named the MVP, and then he wore out his welcome. So he's worn out his welcome in New Jersey. He wore out his welcome in Arizona. Oh, no, he even played for Arizona. So that's 5 teams. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the last 5 years. Taylor Hall was overhyped by the media, and I want to see the 2010 draft class to see if maybe you could do a redo. If you had to do a redo in the NHL draft, I'd say that one would be it. Edmonton had the number 1 overall pick. They drafted Taylor Hall. So right after Taylor Hall, there was Tyler Seguin, Tyler Seguin probably should have gone number 1. Ryan Johansson, he's had attitude problems. Jeff Skinner can't live up to his contract. Nito Niederreiter, Brett Connolly, neither one of those could go number 1 overall, I don't think. Cam Fowler, maybe. Tarasenko went 16th overall. Yevgeny Kuznetsov went 26th overall. You've got guys like Brock Nelson. Riley Sheahan was from, Bo Bennett. If we look in the second round, Justin Falk. And these guys probably wouldn't even be number 1 overall picks, but you could probably trade the pick. But there were guys like Tyler Seguin and Johansson. And Johansson's probably in the same boat as Hall because Johansson, he's very iffy. Jeff Skinner won Rookie of the Year, and he I honestly think that Logan Couture was in this draft too. I want to say Logan Couture was in this draft, or he might have been previous because he was in the Rookie of the Year race with Jeff Skinner. Even Frederick Anderson was taken in this draft. So it's Tyler Seguin, Connolly, Gabranson, Cam Fowler, Ryan Johansson, Mikael Granlund, Vladimir Tarasenko, Kuznetsov, Kelly Yarncroc, Oscar Lindberg. Thank God he came back from his cancer. Pedersen so looking back, this draft is probably one of the weaker ones, but I would say that Tyler Seguin would have been a better pick than Taylor Hall. But we go back to Taylor Hall's stats. He hasn't put up 30-plus goals since 2018. He has struggled. He has been very, very bad. And on an Arizona team that was primed to go to the playoffs, I'm convinced that him in Arizona caused that team to not fare well, not fare too well. So Taylor Hall is a big risk, big reward type of player. Does he have the talent to put up a 30-goal season? Yeah. Is he going to? Probably not. He has been overhyped since he was drafted. So last year he had, but in 16 games, I will give him credit. He had 14 points with 8 goals, 6 assists. But I just don't see Taylor Hall as someone you can build around. And I'm really glad that Boston didn't allow him to use the number 4 because that would have been disrespectful to Bobby Orr. But looking at cap space in a minute, so they got Taylor Hall. They also signed, let's see here, Tomas Nosek to 2 years, 3.5 mil. Eric Howla for 2 years, 4.57 or 4.75 mil. Mike Riley, 3 years, 9 mil. Derek Forbert, 3 years, 9 mil. Even Nosek says he's a bottom 6 guy. So I think looking at those signings and looking at what the cap space that they had was, they only have $1 million left in cap, so they're probably not going to make any huge trades this year. And I think that the Howla signing, the Nosek signing, the Nick Foligno signing, I think that Boston is starting to realize that their window is closing. But because Patrice Bergeron's on the last year of his contract, he's making $6.8 million. Patrice Bergeron wasn't even leading the team in points, assists, or goals. So you've got Pasta, and Pasta's the youngest guy on this team with Charlie McAvoy. They got Brendan Carlo. They lost. Oh, no, but they also have Jake DeBrusk. Jake DeBrusk is making $3.6 million more than what he should be making. But so the window's closing. Marchand's 33, Bergeron's 36. I think that Boston is realizing that this might be their last chance to make a run at the Cup because they are rebuilding, or they're going to have to rebuild. I'm sorry. Linus Allmark's getting paid $5 million for the next 4 years. John Moore is on injured reserve, making $2.7 million. You're making $2.7 million on injured reserve. That is ridiculous. But I think Boston is gearing up for maybe one, or at least one final Cup run, maybe two. Betting that Patrice Bergeron doesn't fall off a cliff this year, because him and Pasta are making up 16% of the cap hit for the Boston Bruins. Then you got Marchand. Marchand signed for the next 4 years. So I think that in terms of cap space, I think a lot depends on where Boston is at the trade deadline. Do I think they're going to be 10, 15 games under 500? No. But if they are, there's going to be a fire sale in Boston, and Bergeron and Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Nick Foligno, Eric Howla, guys like that. And then you got Grzelcyk, Forbert, Mike Riley. Like, if they are under 500 at the trade deadline, there could be a fire sale in Boston. And I think that Bergeron and Marchand will probably be at the top of most teams' lists, depending on how Bergeron's playing that year. And again, I don't think they're going to be they aren't going to be under 500 at all this year. I think they'll make the playoffs, and I think they'll make a deep playoff run. But I think that this is gearing up for the final hurrah, or the last dance, as you will, for Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand and guys like them, and Tuukka Rask. I think that they're really starting to realize that, hey, maybe this window's closed, and it's been open. The window's been open since they won the Cup. I think that was 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. So the window has been open for a while, but it's starting to close. It's been open for a good 10 years now. In most hockey teams, the window's not going to stay open for even that long. Look at the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago won their 3 cups, and they've started a downhill they're on a downhill slope right now, but that slope is starting to creep up because of the acquisitions of Marc-Andre Fleury, because of young kids like Kirby Doc and Alex DeBrincat, and the veteran leadership of Kane and Taves. And then you bring Seth Jones and Caleb Jones into the mix. So Chicago's trajectory is kind of going up again. Boston's is kind of here, and it's really hinging on that cliff because of ages and what they've done. The last 3 years they've been really good, but they haven't had anything to show for it. They could have had a second Stanley Cup, and then they choked to St. Louis. So I think, like I said, I think this is gearing up for one or two final playoff runs, Stanley Cup runs for the Boston Bruins. They lost some guys in free agency, though. They lost Yaroslav Halak to Vancouver, which I thought meant Swayman was probably going to be in the backup role. Guess not. They lost David Krejci to the Czech League. They lost Sean Kuraly to the Blue Jackets. And then they lost King to Toronto and Nick Ritchie to Toronto. So they lost two guys to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So if Toronto was like, well, if we can't beat them, we'll just become them. Kuraly, Krejci are big losses. I don't know if Halak is really that big of a loss considering the age. But I think Krejci and Krejci especially being a leader on the team that he was, I think is a big loss. So they'll have to have, and it's a big loss in leadership, but you have guys like Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand and now Pasta to kind of make up for that. And Brendan Carlo and Charlie McAvoy are starting to become leaders in the locker room. So it's so they'll have guys there who can be leaders. They don't have any alternate captains yet, but this team is looking like they're gearing up for one final run. In the draft, first overall, or their first pick was Fabian Lysell, a right winger. Second, they took Brett Harrison, a center. Philip Svedback, from who was a goalie. Oscar Jelvik from center, or playing center. Ryan Mast, a defenseman. Andre Gasol, a forward. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that he can play anywhere on the ice. And Ty Gallagher, a defenseman. So I'm going to go against my bias here because I'm upset that they're not giving Swayman a chance. But Boston, so with Anaheim, we said 20 to 25, maybe 30 wins, depending. With Arizona, we said 15 to 25 wins because they don't seem like they're a good team. With Boston honestly can win anywhere from 30 to 50 games with this roster. As long as Rask come back, if Ullmark plays even half as good as he's capable of, this roster, when Rask comes back, could have, depending on how long he's out, could have a lot of wins. I think anywhere from, so I'm trying to do a 10-point or 10 wins, somewhere in there. I think Boston will probably be anywhere in between 40 and 50 wins. If they're at 30, there's probably a problem. But I think anywhere from 40 to 50 wins for this club. Obviously, they'll probably have 100 points or close to it. Boston has still got that veteran leadership. They're still a high, and even as portrayed by last year, their wins, they only had 33 wins, but they scored 168 goals in 56 games or 54 games. So this team can put the puck in the net. They still have that veteran leadership in Bergeron and Marchand, and they have one of the best hockey players in the league right now in Pasta. I would probably say they'll win about 45 games this year, which might be too low for this Boston Bruins club. And the other two didn't make the playoffs, so I'll kind of, with teams that I know are going to make the playoffs, I'll do predictions for that. I think Boston will make a deep playoff run. I see them ending up in either the second round or the conference finals. I don't see them in the Stanley Cup Finals, but I don't see them losing losing round one. I think they'll either lose in round two or the conference finals because of how the East is and how good Boston has been in the last 10 years. I think that Boston is probably a conference finals team, but I don't know if they're a Stanley Cup team, especially with teams like Tampa Bay. And as much as I hate to admit it, Toronto, but Toronto's got to prove that they can win a playoff series. So, with that being said, offseason grade for the Boston Bruins, B plus. The Allmark signing, as much as I hate it, good signing for them. They've got a goalie. If Swayman doesn't perform in the preseason, which I don't think is possible, but Taylor Hall kind of iffy, but Foligno is that contract is good for Nick Foligno. And then you've got the third. So a lot of teams kind of forget about their third and fourth liners, but I think that their signings for the third and fourth lines very good. But yeah, this team will be good. Like I said, 45 wins I think is anywhere between 40 and 50. So also, I forgot to do this the last two times before we get out of here. Rest in peace to one of the greatest goalies to ever play the game, Tony Esposito. For those who don't know, passed away a few days ago, and it's a big hit to the hockey world, to the Chicago Blackhawks. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his brother Phil. I know that growing up, my dad idolized Tony Esposito like I idolized Martin Brodeur growing up. So it was a sad week in the hockey world to lose one of the greatest goalies. And I think the cause of death was pancreatic cancer. So just tough all around. But like I said, thoughts and prayers out to his family. Rest in peace, Tony O. I'm pretty sure he is the only rookie goalie to ever record 15 shutouts in a season. I don't even know if I would have to go look, but I don't even know if any goalies now have recorded more than 10 shutouts in a season. So something like that as a rookie is impressive. And it's disappointing because he should have had a Stanley Cup, but he did get to watch the Blackhawks win three cups in 6 years. So yeah, that's it for Full Check 32 and 32. The Boston Bruins preview. I actually don't know who's next. You'd think I'd have this memorized. So next up, lovely. Next up is the Buffalo Sabres, and I cannot wait for that because I wanted to do them first, and Buffalo's a problem, and a lot of it starts at the owners. Kim Pegula is probably the worst owner in the NHL, along with her husband, but her husband doesn't do anything with the Sabres. It's all Kim Pegula, and she has completely destroyed the Sabres because she does not know hockey. And that's not because of the fact that there's so many other Kendall Coyne, Hillary Knight, so many players that know the game of hockey. Kim Pegula is not one of those people. So it'll be interesting. Should be up tomorrow. Follow me at full_check on Twitter, and that is it. Peace.